The Rams named as a sleeper team for this elite college quarterback, and should they trade up for Rome Odunze? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so just a reminder, if you haven't yet, go check us out on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and we read all the comments. By the way, drop your mailbag questions for this week. We're going to get back to a mailbag episode, so drop those down below. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 Sports, SI, Dodgers Nation, the Rams for Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He just finished his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's show, the Rams are a sleeper for this elite college quarterback. Also, should the Rams trade up for this elite receiver, and how the new kickoff rules will impact the Rams. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, Travis, the Bleacher Report insider has the Rams as a sleeper for Michael Penix Jr. He says, I would say these 3 to 4 to watch out for Penix would be Seattle, Atlanta, and potentially a sleeper would be the Rams. With Penix, he measures 6'2" and change, and also measures 6'9" wingspan and measures the biggest hand size of any non-lineman at the combine. Interesting. I don't know if you're a big hand size guy for quarterbacks, but interesting about Penix. And then you go back to what Kalen DeBoer as a head coach. I talked to him yesterday, and he said he's one of the best leaders that he's seen in his life, regardless of sport. So Michael Penix Jr. to the Rams, I'm not so sure I'm high on this. I'm not so sure they're going to draft a quarterback because of all the other needs that they have for this year's team.
Yeah, I think that this is one of these things that it depends on what they're getting from Matthew Stafford. It depends on what they're hearing from him and what his plans are as far as his NFL future is concerned, right? If Matthew Stafford is thinking, I might have a year or two left in me, then maybe they take a guy like Penix because he could be the quarterback of the future. I know that Jimmy G is the backup of the now, and, he's an experienced player. He's done all the things that you could hope he could do. He took a team to a Super Bowl, all that. So you got your backup covered. But if you're thinking that Matthew Stafford maybe only has a year or two left, then maybe you kick the tires on something like Penix. But if you're hearing that he's 3 years, he wants to continue to play. And, seeing what we saw last year, he looks like he's got a lot of football left. It looks like he still really enjoys doing it. So if there's any sort of runway with Matthew Stafford, I think I mentioned this a day or two ago, and the everydayers will probably remember, I think you take the best player available. Now, that might be Penix, but I also said unless it's the quarterback. I think that's the carve out that I would have. He's good. I don't love him. I watched a decent amount of him at Washington. He's pretty good, but he's another one of those guys that was a lot older than the guys he was playing with. I think that's a huge advantage in college football. When you're 24 playing against 19 and 20-year-olds, especially as a quarterback, you're going to be able to take advantage of that. If it happened, I guess I'm intrigued by it, but I think that they have some more pressing needs in the short term, that the Rams are trying to win right now, and I don't think he helps you win right now.
Exactly. And I just don't think they're going to use the backup spot as a developmental position for Matthew Stafford's succession plan. And I do think we're still too early for the Matthew Stafford succession plan. We still have 2 years left with him at the very least. And I think, look, you keep him healthy, you keep him upright, he's going to produce. And I don't think that Michael Penix Jr., when you look at the timeline for him to be that next guy, he just doesn't feel like the next Rams star quarterback that's going to lead this team for the next decade. You have to love a guy like that and have those visions if you're going to go go out there and use a pick on a quarterback considering your needs this year's draft. Also, as far as do I like him as a quarterback? You watch him a lot. I watch him a lot here, Pac-12 country, right? And of course, he's lethal as far as how accurate he was. Definitely one of the better college quarterbacks. Definitely someone who's a great leader, like his coach said. He's also been injury prone, a couple season-ending injuries. And you have season-ending injuries in the college level. It doesn't get any easier in the NFL. So durability concerns. Also, look, when the guy faced pressure, and we saw against Michigan, man, when he faced pressure, he was a different quarterback. And you're going to face pressure at this level until I see him consistently have success. I mean, I just don't love the guy as a player. So that's where I'm at with him as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I really want to go back to this because I think this is important. And, the same thing you could say about Bo Nix at Oregon. They put up bonkers numbers, super accurate, and the teams respond to him and good decision maker and all these things. But I think the hardest thing to unpack, you can unpack arm strength, you can unpack accuracy, you can unpack all the measurable stuff, big hands and moves his feet really quickly, nimble athlete. You can talk to him about football and all this. Great. But what's really hard to kind of take out of the equation when you're watching a Penix, when you're watching a player like Bo Nix and even Jaden Daniels to a certain point with this as well is they're a lot older than these guys. And the difference between 20 and 24 is massive. And especially when you're playing quarterback and the more reps you get, the better you are, the better you're able to take advantage of certain things that a young player might not do. In the NFL, the vast majority of these guys are incredibly seasoned, incredibly smart. They're incredibly well coached, and they're not going to be easy to trick. Where maybe at Washington going up against some Oregon States and Washington States of the world, that you're going to be able to put him in a mismatch that he's going to be able to identify just because he's far more experienced. I don't know how you unpack all of that without just putting him out there and seeing what happens, but it would be a concern of mine.
And it just wouldn't sit well, too. Wouldn't sit well with me. Wouldn't sit well probably with Matthew Stafford. The optics of that is you're using a high pick on a quarterback that's not going to help us with this year. After we just left, we lost Aaron Donald, and we need as much talent as we can get to try to get back to the Super Bowl. That wouldn't sit right. And how about this, too? When it comes to finding that next quarterback, I think the Rams are going to do it a couple different ways. Either one, you're going to trade up massively to get a super franchise level quarterback, maybe a number 1 or number 2 in the draft like they did with the Jared Goff, or you're going to trade for a Matthew Stafford, like someone who's an established star. And the reason for that is, one, that's how you win in this league with elite quarterback play. You pair that with Sean McVay. And two, this is Los Angeles, California, right? You need that star QB. I think they understand that marketability aspect and how important that is, and just important to winning too. So I think that's how they're going to do it. Or maybe you can get a bridge quarterback if you don't love someone at the time. But I don't think it's going to come through, okay, we're going to draft a guy, he's going to be in the system, and all of a sudden, boom, like a Jordan Love. That's not going to happen here in LA, in my opinion.
No, I don't think so either. Here's the one exception that I'll throw out there, because here's something that's interesting to me. And just listen carefully to what I'm about to say, everybody. I'm not calling this guy the next Patrick Mahomes. That's not what I'm saying. But the Chiefs identified him very early, like, hey, listen, that's the guy. Nobody else knows that's the guy, but that's the guy. That's the guy we're taking. We're going to go figure out a way to get it. They didn't have to move all the way up until the top to get it done. They waited until kind of the middle of the first round to get it done. But they were able to say, hey, look, that's our guy. If the Rams feel that way about a player, whether it's Penix or anybody else, like, listen, that's the guy. Nobody else sees it yet. If Sean McVay and Les Snead are super high on him and you think you can get him, if you think you can get him, maybe you don't want to jump up to, the top 8 picks or so to do it. But if you're at 19 and you think you can grab him at 14 or 15, and that's the guy that you've identified as your next guy, maybe you do it. And maybe it is kind of like a Jordan Love situation where you tell your guy, listen, I know that you're our guy for now, but you know how this league works. We're going to have to move on at some point, and we got our guy in waiting. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2. If that's how they're looking at it, you have my attention. But that would have to be the circumstances where you are in love with the player. Not just that, oh, this might work out, but you're damn near certain that it's going to work out the way that the Chiefs were with Mahomes, and you make a big play like that.
Hey, if it's Patrick Mahomes level talent, then by all means. I think that strategy would probably apply more to a McCarthy, a JJ McCarthy, just because he's so young. The system they ran, maybe there's some untapped potential there. I think Michael Penix Jr., we kind of just know what he is. A very accurate quarterback when he has time, doesn't face pressure. I don't think he has that crazy amount of ceiling, but I agree, though. If you think you have that guy, hey, man, it's the risk you're going to take, right? It's not me, right? My job's not going to fall on that. But coming up next, the new kicking rules in the NFL. Really very interesting. You have to know these and how they're going to impact the Rams. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
Have you put the Gametime app on your phone? You should, because if you're anything like me, you're always trying to find the next ticket to the next thing, right? Whether it's sports, music, comedy, theater events, you're always liking to go find something, but you don't have to worry anymore about where you're going to buy the tickets to the next big event because you have the Gametime app on your phone. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, best price guarantee. What else do you need? Gametime takes all the guesswork out of buying your tickets. And here's one of the things that I love, because sometimes you procrastinate, you wait. Gametime deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find your last minute tickets, right? There are exclusive flash deals. There are sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick the section and game day picks the seat for big time savings. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And also, as always, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. We appreciate you. And you can also join that Everyday Listeners Club too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, here in our second segment, we're going to break down these new kickoff rules. Now, these usually are kind of one of those things you see in the offseason. There's a headline, this new rules. You're like, I'll wait till the season comes, and then I'll learn the rules. And then you're like all surprised, kind of like what you saw in the Super Bowl with the overtime rules.
Right.
I actually did click. I was like, holy crap, this is like a lot, right? And obviously, you watch a kickoff now, and it's a nothing burger, right? It's a touchback, nothing happens. But there's a lot of new rules, and they're really similar to what we saw in the XFL for all those years, right? So you got a couple of them here. I'm going to lay them out right here. Kind of get your take on these. So the kicks that land between the 20 and the end zone, they must be returned.
Yes.
Kicks that bounce from the landing zone into the end zone will be a touchback at the 20-yard line. Kicks that fail to reach the 20 will result in the touchback at the 40-yard line. Kicks that land in the end zone will result in a touchback at the 30-yard line. So those are the first couple ones. So basically, this is to discourage no action there on the kickoffs.
Right. They're trying to take a play, like you said, is a big fat nothing burger and turn it into a football play, right? The kickoff, I think the return rate was something like 18%. Like they just very, very few kickoffs were actually returned in the NFL. It's an exciting play, but you have to run the play to do it. This incentivizes everybody to return the ball. And it also is going to try to eliminate those high-speed collisions where you've got guys running for 30, 40 yards, a head start to smash into somebody. I know that you're going to get into this too. The kicking team and the receiving team only line up 5 yards apart from each other. So it's not, and there's no running head start. You're going to have far less violent collisions, theoretically, at least. I really like it. And I like it because it takes a play that was nothing and makes it something. And it's a little bit of a different reason, but I think the same logic applies to it. When they moved the PAT from where it was to, 5 or so years ago to where it is now, they were making PATs at something like a 99.4% clip. They never missed them. Well, they moved it back about 20 yards, and now they make them at about 93% of the time. Guys miss those kicks now, and it changed the game. It's a better game because of it. It's more exciting. There's more variables. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to introduce more football plays with higher degrees of variety. And I think that they might get it with this. And I like that they're trying it. There's nothing that says you have to sign up for this for the next 50 years. If it sucks, get rid of it and come up with something else.
And that's why the NFL is in a stratosphere all by themselves. Is when something is an issue, they address it. If there's something that's a non-action item, they go out there and they make something happen. They make things happen in the NFL. They don't waste time. Looking at you, Major League Baseball. But other thing you mentioned too about the extra point, they make most of them still. But let's say it's a game where the kick is to tie or the kick is to put you over the top. You kind of clinch up, you tense up a little bit. And you're like, "Ooh, okay." Then you feel better about it, right? It's not automatic.
They miss them just enough to where you have to pay attention, right? They miss them just enough to where it's like, did he really miss that? And it changes games. And that look. At the end of the day, these are TV shows. At the end of the day, these are entertainment products, and you want them to be exciting, and plays like this make it more exciting.
And how about this, Travis? So a couple more rules here. The opposing team will get the ball at the 40 if the kickoff goes out of bounds, so that's significant. And then onside kicks, I love this one. Onside kicks are reserved for the fourth quarter and must be declared. So, Travis, I'm sure the NFL was just pounding their fists and they were furious about those two or three kicks that were onside kicks before the fourth quarter in the last decade. So they had to put this in there.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't think you're missing much right there. The one thing that I would like to see them tweak that they haven't done yet, I know that it's been floated out there a little bit, because the onside kick is recovered so infrequently, right? That because of the rules, you can't stack the line to one side, all of the sorts of things that have been implemented in the mind of player safety. You just can't get it enough. Before, you didn't get it a lot, but you got it just enough to where it got exciting. I think it was something like 17 or 18% where you could recover that thing. And now it's something in the low single digits. You just never get them anymore. I would like them to go to that model where, okay, you score a touchdown, you want the ball back. It's your ball. It's 4th and 15 from your own 20-yard line. Go ahead, give it a shot. And you get, to run a 15-yard play on offense, I think you would get a success rate of somewhere between 10 and 20%. And that's about what you're looking for. And it would make the game very exciting. But the onside kick, as they have it set up right now, it really is a non-play, a nothing burger, like you said. I'd like them to kind of tweak that a little bit at some point, too.
Yeah, we just gave him credit for addressing a non-play. Well, that's one that definitely it's a 3.2% success rate. So that's nothing. But we've heard those debates the last couple of years. What should they do? Should you have them go for on a 4th and 30 or something like that? That'd be exciting. I don't know if that's the answer, but definitely another way to keep possession definitely needs to happen. Now, there's also no fair catches, which is cool. I like that. You're going to see more action. But the question now is, though, how does this impact the Rams? I'll tell you why. Rams have been one of the worst kick returning teams in the NFL over the last 5 seasons. Last year, they had 16.1 yards averaging. They're averaging 16.1 yards on return. That was 32nd in the league. They're dead last in the NFL. They've been awful. 2022, they were 28th. 21, they were 23rd. 2020, they were 23rd. They've been in the bottom of the league. They only actually attempted, I looked it up right before the show. They only attempted 9 kick returns all year.
Yeah, they don't return it.
It's you have to improve that position. And I think that Austin Trammell is someone bobbles a little too much, doesn't break tackles. I want to see someone get another opportunity to have that job this year.
Well, it'll bring in specialists again, right? Like the guys that were good at this that maybe don't have a ton of utility as a wide receiver, but if you're a game breaker in the return game, that could be a big deal. If Tutu Atwell could ever find a way to sustain some of these collisions and survive them, then maybe that's his future in this league, is get him in space and have him run around and do some things there, because you're right that they tried Tutu, it didn't work. He got hurt right away. And then basically they just said, Trammell, you catch it, take a knee, or have it fly over your head into the end zone. It's not really going to be an option anymore. I think the other thing that needs to be addressed moving forward is like all those numbers that you were going through, Doug, and I'm trying to rack my brain here a little bit. Maybe you have it in front of you. I would love to know when John Fossil was still there as their special teams coordinator, because when he was there, they were good at this. When he was there, they were good at punt returns. When he was there, they were good at field goals. When he was there, they were good at blocking field goals and blocking punts. That their special teams were terrific.
They were.
And since he's left, they've been not only not very good, to your point with those numbers, they've been downright bad. So maybe this will put a little extra emphasis on that third team. Obviously got offense, defense, and that third team with the special teams is something that they've kind of let slide a little bit over the last couple of years. And it's going to have to be a point of emphasis, especially with your defense being a big question mark coming into the season.
Yeah, I didn't go far back to the fossil years, but you're absolutely right. I mean, and coaching is absolutely a factor. And I think, too, just taking advantage of the rules, too. I think the Rams will embrace it more because of the rules that are in play. But how about shout out to the XFL for being innovators, right? I mean,
you know what else the XFL came up with that we love? That spider cam that flies over the field.
The spider cam is unbelievable, right? And well, here's one thing I wanted to get from the XFL. So if you watch like the recent version of the XFL, when they cut to the review, and you can actually listen to the guy, Dean awesome. Blandino was doing the review, and he's got an Xbox controller.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He's got they should just do that. I mean, that'd be pretty awesome. I mean, hey, XFL just continuing to grow the game. But he hate me. But coming up next, real quick, should the Rams, we're going to talk about this once more, should they trade up for this lead wide receiver? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
Say goodbye. Say goodbye to your busted brackets because FanDuel, they're going to let you bet on every game of the tournament, right? So whether you are betting big on an upset or you're thinking that Cinderella, they're going to come through for you, maybe you like the favorites, right? Maybe you like the Blue Bloods. You want to go with UConn. You want a number 1 seed? Well, it's time to go dancing on America's number 1 sportsbook because right now, new customers, you get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. How about that? You make a $5 bet, it hits, you get $200 more. $200 more to use on point spreads, $200 more to use on money lines, $200 more to use on whatever you want to spend it on, including who could win it all. And right, baseball's getting started. FanDuel's got baseball lines. Of course, there's all sorts of NBA action. So you got you covered no matter what you like. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON, and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Travis, we're going to talk about another Washington player for this final segment, and that, of course, is Rome Odunze, the elite wide receiver right behind Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion, as far as the best receiver in this draft class. And the question is, should the Rams consider trading up? I personally think you could probably get a deal done. I threw out some possibilities with the Atlanta Falcons for the pick 19th, the 52nd, the 153rd, and next year the 3rd round pick, something like that, to get a receiver who some think is a Hall of Fame level talent as far as the raw measurables, as contested catchability and things like that. I think that it's something they should still consider when you consider they're going to be trying to score tons and tons of points and control the football with Aaron Donald retiring.
He's really good. I mean, he's really, really good. And I would be surprised if he's not a really good pro. My only hesitation is I don't think it's a position of a huge need for the Rams right now, unless, and I think this is a big but, unless you think Cooper Kupp has gone over the top of the mountain. If you think that his best football is in the rearview mirror, and we'll see what Puka becomes. He had such an unbelievable first season. I'm incredibly optimistic, but he was a 5th round pick, and we'll see. There are stories of guys that get off to great starts and come back to earth a little bit. We'll see. I hope he's not one of those guys. Cooper Kupp had a bad year. He was not the impact player that he has been throughout the vast majority of his career. He takes a lot of punishment. He's a very physical player. We'll see. So if you have that, we're getting closer to the end than the beginning with a guy like Kupp, then maybe Rome Odunze makes a lot of sense. If you're not entirely convinced that Puka Nacua can be a number 1 going forward, he makes a lot of sense. But if you think Kupp's got gas in the tank, if you think Puka's going to continue to be Puka, then it just feels like you have bigger holes to fill, especially on the defensive side, that maybe that's something, because you're going to have to move up to get him. He's not going to be there at 19. You're going to have to make a bold move up there to get a guy that maybe doesn't help you right away and maybe doesn't fill a hole that you have glaring right now.
And I agree with a lot of these points for sure. I think when you bring up Cooper Kupp, I think this would help Cooper Kupp because you could focus solely on being that slot receiver and doing what he does best. Puka Nacua, love him. I'm his biggest fan. I'm his stan. But Odunze's ceiling is higher, right? Odunze's ceiling is all pro, right? So, and you look at what the Rams love, right? What do the Rams love? High character guys, hard workers, tough players. He's all of that. I mean, he worked at his granddad's dairy farm growing up, man. That's hard work, all right? From Washington, he's got the dog, right? But I think for me, it's you take this offense to a whole nother level if you have an Odunze and a Puka and a Cooper Kupp, a Kyron Williams, that offensive line, I would guarantee if everything works out, everyone stays healthy, that's a top 3 offense in this league. And look, let's also say this, Travis. A playmaker in the modern day NFL, they're more important than some defensive linemen. Okay, this league is built around the playmaker right now.
I completely agree with you, Doug. But you do have to have somebody on defense that can stop somebody.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm with. Look, if there's a way to get there, and you don't have to completely mortgage your future, and if you think that, look, we're going to need this guy sooner than later, we can move Kupp to the slot. If these are things they've been toying with in their minds, then I don't dislike it as an idea at all. But if this is just hey, he's a really good player, and why not kind of take a shot and see what happens, and we'll just have a million wide receivers. That's
a deep wide receiver class too. To your point,
it is.
Yeah, my whole thing is though, just my spider senses kind of tingling. I mean, the Rams meeting with him during the combine, and they were after Mike Evans and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I just think he looks and feels. When I watched the highlights last night, he looks like a Ram. Also, I'll leave you with this on him. 27 contested catch opportunities. He caught 20 of them. Marvin Harrison Jr., he had 30. He caught 13.
Yeah. No, he's a beast. He is an absolute beast. My only concern is do you just plug him in right there? And where do all the other pieces on the board move into? Because you're paying Cooper Kupp a lot of money. If you think it's time to move on, and look, this is the NFL. It's always time to move on, right? Better a year early than a year late. Because I'm with you on that Odunze is a monster, and I would be shocked if he isn't a really, really good pro.
Hands softer than puppy ears, I'm telling you, man. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McKinney. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And, of course, you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.